So today I have the lovely Anne from BAFC Settlements joining me, and Anne is my preferred settlement agent in WA. So for all my clients that are buying in Perth, she is the one that will help you. So Anne, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for asking me, Ash. It's a pleasure.
So we have some pretty simple questions that I feel would be beneficial for new investors to hear. So I'm going to start off by just asking you, what does a settlement agent actually do?
Okay, so basically a settlement agent is going to facilitate the transfer of the property, in simple terms, from the seller to the buyer. And there's a few main duties that we need to cover to be able to do that. But that's basically what our job is. So once the contract's all signed, we're going to take that over. We're going to check through all the details on the contract and make sure everything complies. If there's any little idiosyncrasies that need to be sort of tightened up a little bit. Sometimes people get the lot numbers wrong. Sometimes they get the volume and folio number wrong. So we check all those little things. And if they're incorrect, we'll get variations and organise all that. Then our other job's going to be things like gathering all the information from all the different places, like the local council, the water corp, the shire. If there's swimming pools, are there compliance issues? We term them orders and requisitions from the council. They'll give us a list of things that may have outstanding things on them, or if there's been building approvals, etc. So I always like to term a settlement agent as a party planner. So, you know, when you're arranging party, you've got to organise the drinks, the venue, the entertainment, things like that. So what we're doing is we've been instructed to come to the party and organise it. So we're going to pull everyone together, get all the information together and disperse it and make sure everyone's all on the same page and come together at the same time on the same day. And find out many hiccups.
I like the idea of the party planner
analogy.
Yeah, analogy. And you know, when you said not too many hiccups, the first thing I thought of was, you know, not too many drunk people at the party that are going to cause an issue as well. So I'm sure you've seen that. Well, that takes us straight into, when does a settlement agent get involved? Are they getting involved prior to the client signing the contract? Do they appoint you after? When should someone get in touch?
It's a good question because it's a bugbear of mine. I believe that a settlement agent should be involved with the buyer before they sign a contract. Because once you've signed that contract and it's accepted by the seller, the horse is bolted and there's really not a lot we can do about it. But I always offer the service. I don't mind how many contracts I review for one person, because as we know, you know, you're not always going to get accepted for that particular property. So I would prefer to review the contract and make sure that you've got everything covered before it's all signed off, because people do send me contracts already signed and say, can I review this? There's really nothing to review. It's signed, sealed, deal done.
Yeah.
And really hard to do any changes after that. And if you are going to do a change, especially to the entity that's going to buy the property, you're going to get double stamp duty. So there's a few things that we need to talk about before we get signatures on that contract. So going back to your original question, as soon as possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like when people contact me to do a pre-purchase inspection after they've already purchased the property, and I say to them, I can do it, but the idea of me going through and doing a pre-purchase inspection is to let you know if there's any move for what you offer. Like, are there costs that you're going to have to spend prior to buying? Do you want to take those costs into account when you put your offer in? Because once you sign your contract, there's, in a way, I mean, there is a point in me going through, but it's not really the purpose of what I do, and how I can help landlords or investors actually use it to their advantage when placing an offer for the right price. So it's the same thing. And I think in WA, we're pretty lucky that we're doing a lot of intent to offers first. So quite often, as an investor, when you're buying a property, most selling agents will actually do intent to offers, which is not the legally binding part, but it's definitely asking for all that information. And only when your offer's been accepted will the agent then send you through the DocuSign paperwork to do. And that's when you would pass it on to Anne and get Anne to check. So you've normally had the agreement payment of the price, and it's now just the signing bit. So there is, 24 hours or so to get and to double check that.
Yeah, and we see that as well. They're information gathering first, the real estate agents, then they're formulating the contract from that. And when that formulated contract comes through on DocuSign, send it through to the settlement agent and get them to look at it. Some settlement agents will not review contracts. They don't see it as part of their part of the position that they want to, or the service they want to provide. And that's fine. That's just the way their business is structured. But certainly I do, as you would know, offer that after hours as well, because most contracts are signed on a Saturday and Sunday. Yeah. And so when you put me in touch with clients, I just say to them, here's my mobile, SMS me. I'm not stuck at the computer all day on the weekends, but if you SMS me and tell me there's contract through to my email, I will be at the computer within 2 or 3 hours generally, and I can have a look through it. So yeah.
And the idea, and I know it's maybe not a standard settlement agent process, but the idea of you checking it is, I would think, is going to make your settlement process easier as well, because the contract's done correctly. Because I can imagine it would be more of a headache for you having to deal with it when there's... You've hit the nail on the head. That's why I like to do it. Yeah, yep. Absolutely. So let's get into questions that, or conditions or contracts that have issues in. So when a client sends you the contract and you've looked at it and you said, listen, this isn't right, that's not right, or something's wrong, what are the one or two common things that you're seeing in a contract that need to be changed? The one that tricks everyone up is, so most agents have got the standard annexures. So when we talk about the major structural report, the building report, that comes through, and after clause 2, there's a little rectangular box, and it just sort of sits there blank, but that actual box can be filled in. So most people aren't putting in back patios, the back patios that get built on after the house, so they're not under the main roof structure, or a garage that's been thrown on the side. Things like that aren't included in your major structural defect report. So that little box is to put that in there, including patio, including side carport that's been added on, or your timber pest inspections. It's not going to include the back shed out the back. Same thing, it's got a little box included in there. That's the main thing that comes through. So I always Google the property on realestate.com and go through all the pictures to see what this property is looking like, because I'm not going to know what it looks like just by looking at the address. So I Google it, I have a look, I see what's there. You can clearly see structures that have been added on after the event. So I say you need to put that in. So that's the first one. The other one are your solar panels. So there's quite a few houses with solar panels now. Most people bought those on a payoff system that will move across to the person that actually bought the solar systems. But if those people don't pay it out before they sell the property and decide not to pay it because they don't own the property anymore, who's going to lose their solar panels? Never knew. Yeah, so the company that installed them can go and collect them. Wow. So I always say put in there that there's evidence that the solar panels have been paid off. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, so those sorts of things. And I can find all that out by just doing a Google search through realestate.com, seeing the houses I just go through, and you can always see those sort of things on the pictures or in the description. So they're the sort of things that I ask to be added on. That way we're not having arguments at the end of the day, and we're not having worries about, you getting a phone call or me getting a phone call saying my solar panels are ripped off the roofs. What's happened there? Yeah. Super helpful there. A lot of properties that we're looking at have got the solar panels. And that I'm seeing as well, just looking on the first tip, which is, making sure like sheds and patios are included in that structural inspection, is where I've seen a house, and then between the house and the side fence, there's like sometimes the fence is a brick wall, and I've had a situation where the brick wall it wasn't structurally sound, but it wasn't part of the house. So the purchaser had to pay for that to be done separately. So now when I look at properties that have got like a brick wall that joins the fence to the house, And I think there's a concern. I normally let them know, listen, include that in your contract as well, just in case any issues. So they're really amazing tips for clients to hear. And if we can just finish off talking about title insurance, because it's a common question. I don't know much about it, and I'm seeing it come up on a lot of Facebook posts. So title insurance, what is it and do we need it?
Okay, so it's an insurance over the title, basically. So it can cover you for fraud and forgery, so that's a good thing, and theft in relation to the title and someone trying to sell it on your behalf. It can also cover you for your outstanding rates and taxes. So if you buy a property, when a settlement agent advises local council water corp, they say, okay, this property's been transferred. They send us the information of what's still outstanding, and we make sure that's paid at settlement. There have been times where there's been human error from the council and they've gone, oh, we know we gave you this information, but they actually do still owe money. Now, it runs with the land. It doesn't run with the person who owns the property. So they're not going to go and chase the person who used to own the property, I should have said. They're not going to chase that person. They're going to chase the person who currently is in possession of the property. So if there was an error from that area, you could make a claim on that as well. You've got things like survey boundaries. So the next door neighbour might go knock on your door and go, hey, we can resurvey our lot. We've had it resurveyed and your fence line is 50 metres out onto our property. So therefore you're going to have to pay to get that beautiful brick fence pulled down and redone. You could, because you knew nothing about that at the time, and a settlement agent's not going to be able to check that for you. So you can make a claim against that as well. Any buildings that you didn't know had council approval, and my point is didn't know. So it's like any other insurances, there's a disclosure that you have to make. So when you fill out the form, that does say, do you know of any issues? So if you bought a property and the agent said, now that's not council approved, that lean on to out the back, and you've gone, yeah, no problems. Well, when you fill out your title insurance form, really you should be disclosing that you knew about that when you bought the property. So that's one way of, if you weren't told about any council approvals or anything, that would be one insurance that you could take out if the council knocked on your door and said that structure's not approved, you need to get retrospective approval. We had one in City Beach, which is the higher end of the market, probably about 12 years ago now, and it was built on a corner block, and they had rebuilt retaining walls and everything. And as you know, building expenses in City Beach, it's all rock and, it's expensive job. And they build up all these great big, beautiful, high brick fences around the property. It was a $2-point-something million property. And the council came around to do some work out the front on their area, and they were surveying it, and the wall was in the wrong spot completely. And they took out title insurance when they bought the property, and it paid out $85,000.
Wow.
I know. So it is a small premium because you only pay it once.
And is it the lifetime of your ownership? Okay.
So even if it's for peace of mind, in reality, you're not going to buy a car and then drive around without any insurance, and you pay it every year. So the premium, they're not high premiums either. And like I say, it's for the term from the time you buy it to the time you sell it. One off.
Yeah.
I say. I mean, we can't advise people to take it out, but we certainly offer it to them on every purchase.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I mean, obviously I've worked in real estate for a long time, and I don't think I've ever asked the question about the title insurance in that much detail. And so for me, I just thought it was like the fraud side of things. So when I've purchased, I've gone, oh no, I don't need that. But now when you talk about the resurveying and things like that, now I'm like, oh, actually, that's actually really, really important. So that's a really good tip for people as well.
Even people buying vacant land, they go, no, it's a new development. Let's not worry about it. Why not? On vacant land, the average purchase price of vacant land, it's only about $320. And I know I say only $320, and I know when you're buying a property, every cent counts. But that could end up being $3,000.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So definitely, all my investors are definitely long-term investors. So they plan on holding on to the properties for 10, 20 years. So really the cost of it reduces down.
Outweighs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
And that's been so helpful. And I know a lot of our investors are going to get a lot of benefit from watching this. So thank you so much for joining me today. And thank you for always looking after my clients so well. I never had anyone contact me to say that there's been any concerns. Everything's always run smoothly.
That's great.
Feedback's always been positive.
The team love what they do. So I think it makes a difference. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm very, very thankful. And if anyone wants to reach out to Anne from BAFC, I will have a QR code after this session so that you can just click on that, and that'll take you straight to her website, and just reach out and ask her any questions that you may have. And thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ash. See you.